always forget quite what the delay is, but hopefully you got about 15 seconds. Semi-Trump's Life, this song is so good. I always forget what the delay is on this. But hopefully you're getting sweet semi-charm kind of life for a little while. Aaron's already there. So semi-charm kind of life. Macbeth illusion and a good way to keep up my daughter. She just went to sleep. So let's see, we're running on about a 15-20 second delay. Aaron, you loved it. You say, Cody, stop. Your text says stop, but your heart says go, go, go. That's what's happening right there. So welcome to Adult Get Lit Macbeth Edition. Scotty, welcome.
Oh, echo. Sorry about that. Echo should be good. You know, I got to relearn how to do this every time I do it. 2 weeks is just long enough to forget how I set up all of my system. So very, very sorry about that. Scotty, echo is fixed. Aaron, echo is fixed. 15 seconds delay. So yeah, I will be there. So how did Macbeth go, guys? Just let me kind of see in the chat. Abby, thank you so much for your kind words. Yeah, I got to echo. We should be down with no echo at this point. My producer just put baby to bed, so she's on it now. Scotty, we got it. Aaron, we got it. Good deal. How do we like Macbeth? Did we read it? Did we watch a version? If you watched a version, let me know. And if you haven't read or watched a version since high school or college, please let me know the version that you are most familiar with in the comments so that I can see. And while you are typing those, let's talk about drinking. Oh, my recipe, it's hard to see with all of my other stuff. I can put it in front of my face. Okay, so what we are drinking today, the first version, is called the Highlander. Okay, let me get that in camera. I don't know if Macbeth is a Highlander. I do know that Highlanders get very upset. Yes, I know, Aaron. It's called the Scottish play. We're not in a theater. Okay, this is a live stream. The worst thing that could happen is I could spill my drink again, as happened last time. But yeah, I'm not going to say that because I'm an English teacher, not a theater nerd. It's a totally different kind of nerd. All right, so what we got here, variation on a Manhattan cocktail. Let me check my stream. I am kind of worried that as soon as I said I wasn't suspicious or superstitious, my stream went down, which that would be on me, right? So I'm going to have Sarah verify that that's the case. Oh, Macy, good job. You watched the Thug Notes. Let me tell you, I did too. That is such a great resource. That dude's awesome. Not exactly classroom appropriate, but it works. Sarah, we still getting that live stream? Yeah. You know, okay, good deal. All right, so let's talk about the drink. All right, the Highlander. Okay, so this is a Manhattan. This is scotch, 2 ounces of scotch, 1 ounce of vermouth, and then half an ounce of Benedictine, which Benedictine's right here. If you don't have this in your liquor cabinet and you like tasty things, you're doing yourself a disservice. You can have this without Benedictine, and then it's called, with vermouth. It's called a Bobby Burns. Without vermouth is called a Highlander. We've got a Highlander right here. I suggest that you pour that in a rocks glass over ice. You pour this in a martini glass. But wait, you say, is he going to be able to get to that drink before the ice is melted when he's got one drink already in his hand? And if you're that person, I say, welcome. This must be your first time here. My name's Cody Pruitt. And yeah, we'll get there. Give it a minute. So let's see. Is there a Zoe on here? No, that's why they call it a Highlander, right? It's a thing. And with Highlanders, as you know, children of the 80s, there can be only one. So, you know, this is Bobby Burns. I'm sorry. Keep getting those confused. Scotty, I feel like I can see you. You know, even though if you want to point and if you've got to talk, then you can do that. And Paul, welcome. Made it through Act 1 in the PDF. Totally reasonable to finish up on the summary. Did anybody watch the Patrick Stewart version of this thing? Because if you didn't, that gives me a sad, because it's so good, you guys. It's so good, and we're going to be talking about it today. But what we're going to start off with is what we call the Mac summary for the kids who don't read the book. By the way, if you can think of better puns down here, right? Danny, we already made the drop your drink joke. If you can think of better puns for summary, I've got Mac summary for the kids who didn't read the book. It's not my strongest of the night, but guys, there's a lot to look forward to. I'll let you know the ones I'm proud of, but I think you'll know anyways. So good to see everybody. Welcome, Danny. Welcome, Paul. Welcome, Bucks, Macy. I hope you've got a nice a mocktail, a lady Macbeth, a lady Highlander. I don't know, what your jam is.
You do you, Macy.
I'm sure you heard that. My producer says you do you. And yes, best of luck to both of you guys. We went to Clinton Macy's virtual baby shower. It was extremely pleasant. Please give kudos to your friend who ran that, because that was a better organized Zoom meeting than anything I have seen recently. So many fewer butts than most Zoom meetings that most people have been on over the past couple of weeks. So the Macbeth summary. Macbeth is the story of the greatest warrior of Scotland who, while returning from putting down a rebellion with his best friend Banquo, runs into 3 witches in the woods. These witches tell Macbeth that he's the Thane of Glamis, which he already is. He will be the Thane of Cawdor and the King of Scotland, and that Banquo himself will never be king, but his kids will be. Banquo is skeptical, but Macbeth is all in, because if you give him Macbeth a prophecy, he's gonna kill his king. The witches disappear. The men are immediately met by the messengers who tell Macbeth that the Thane of Cawdor was a traitor who's been executed. Macbeth is given his title. Boom, that's 2 out of 3 prophecies complete. Macbeth writes a letter to his wife, conveniently named Lady Macbeth. I have to tell students that Macbeth is a man. They hear Beth and they get kind of pigeonholed there. Anyways, Lady Macbeth gets a letter letting her know the prophecies, and also that the King Duncan is going to stay at their castle that night. She hatches a plan and prays to actual demons to make her cruel enough to pull it off. This is the famous "unsex me now" speech. We'll talk about that in a minute. She convinces Macbeth to murder Duncan by calling Macbeth a little girly man. That's a theme that's going to come up a lot. Macbeth agrees, but he's so guilt-ridden that he hallucinates a dagger. He's a man of the sword. A dagger's a coward's weapon. You see this come up a lot. He and Lady Macbeth pull it off and pin the whole thing on Duncan's sons, and even though Banquo's a little suspicious that Duncan kicked it the same day that Macbeth got the prophecy, Macbeth is crowned king. Let's see. Danny, that is a good point, and we are going to get into, she says why the Lady Macbeth gotta be a mocktail. I totally agree, and I have fallen into a trap that I'm going to criticize a little bit later on about why Lady Macbeth gets such a bad rap. Spoiler alert, the answer is because she's a woman, and she has goals. Macbeth's paranoia and anger at the idea his line won't continue get to him, so he orders his best friend Banquo and Banquo's son Fleance. Sarah, have we thought about Fleance for a boy? Maybe? Banquo? I'm getting nothing. Okay. All right. Just stop. So, Macbeth orders Banquo's execution. The killers ex Banquo. Fleance gets away. Later at a banquet in his own honor, Macbeth sees the ghost of Banquo. He freaks out in front of his friends. He destabilizes his authority. He freaks out Lady Macbeth. He decides to revisit the witches, and he gets 3 more prophecies. He should beware of Macduff, who is another Thane. He'll be king until the woods march on his castle, and he will never be killed by a man born of woman. Macbeth is cockier than ever. Just to be sure, he decides to kill all of Macduff's family, as well as Macduff. What he doesn't know is Macduff has gone to England to see the rightful heir, Malcolm, who is Duncan's son, who Duncan's murder was blamed on. So instead, Macbeth's men just kill all of Macduff's family. This is where the amazing meme line, "What you egg," comes from. If you have kids, that's a thing that you think is funny. Zoe, I hope you're giggling a little bit. The rest of you, it's a meme. So memes are these things where you take a pic. Don't worry, we'll get into it later. Lady Macbeth goes crazy out of guilt. She kills herself. Macduff shows up with an army of rebel Scots and English sympathizers. Macduff's army camouflages themselves with the woods to hide their numbers, but they end up looking like walking trees. Macbeth and Macduff square off. Macbeth finds out that Macduff was born from a C-section, which somehow is not the same as being born from a woman. Look, I don't know who of the women in my life I have known have had a C-section, but I'm pretty sure they were still involved in the birth process. That seems like a pretty lazy technicality to say you had a C-section so you weren't born of a woman. Anyways, They fight. We don't see the finale. Macbeth gives a victory speech, and then Macduff rolls out with Macbeth's severed head. It's gnarly, and it's in the textbook, so we have to show that part in class, and it's awesome. Malcolm declares that Scotland will be more democratic, and Macduff goes off for a drink. So let's see, I'm going to catch up with the text real quick. History jokes. Lady Macbeth is secretly a Lordy Macbeth. I like it. Let's see. Interesting. Thank you, Scotty. They call children of C-section the unborn. See, I thought that this had a little more context than what we think of in modern day. And I did know that there was a context with, typically, if you had a C-section, it was because that woman was probably going to die in childbirth. So I appreciate you, but this is why it's good for cross-curricular collaboration, you guys. I need a history teacher to check me on these things, so many thanks. And any corrections that you hear that need to be had, please let me know. I've got a little bit more history here. So Macbeth is produced after the coronation of James of Scotland, right? So this is the first Scottish king on the English throne. He got there because he's like a great cousin of Elizabeth, who has recently died and was Shakespeare's first patron. England has become the dominant power in the world under the reign of a woman, and if anything, the play seems to say, particularly to King James, that there are more things that make a ruler than proving you're the manliest man around. The English thought that this might be an important thing for the Scots at the time to know. Macbeth was a real person, not necessarily known for being a bad king. Shakespeare bent those rules a little bit to work in King James's real-life ancestors, which were Banquo and Fleance. So when Macbeth gets this vision of 10 child kings marching out, and the last one's holding a mirror, so what Shakespeare's doing is he's patting James on the back by putting his entire lineage, like, symbolically on stage and suggesting his line will last forever. And spoiler alert, so far that's true. There's still a Tudor on the throne, so Shakespeare called that shot, and he is still sticking with it. Let's see. Sorry, Scotty. Oh, yeah, James. I read about that a little bit today. James liked the men. Elizabeth may or may not have, but probably liked the women, so really hard to get an heir out of that situation. At the time, obviously we have modern medicine and social mores, so good for us. We're getting something right. One thing. Anywho, Lady Macbeth, she mentions in the play that she breastfed a child. This is going to be important. It is clear that they have no children together. That's a significant plot point. The historical Lady Macbeth was married before Macbeth. Her children from that relationship died before her second marriage. This is used in some productions to a really interesting effect. The most recent adaptation, the opening scene was a funeral for the Macbeth's daughter, and at the same time their teenage son is dying in a battle. So it could have been really interesting. It could have had some cool motivations for the two characters, but if you've seen this movie, it doesn't work. It is a really pretty, really boring movie. Which brings me to my next segment, Macbeth actors. Patrick Stewart gave us one of the great performances, in my opinion, which gave us one of the great syllables in cinema history, which is this right here. Man, Patrick Stewart makes some choices in that movie, and like 90% of them are amazing. And by the way, if you're not watching him read Shakespearean sonnets on YouTube, you're missing out. However, this 1%, this single choice that he makes here is regrettable. He sees Banquo's ghost at a banquet, and it's so good. It's so good. So let's talk about famous actors to play Macbeth. We got Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart was coached in his role by his good friend, Ian McKellen. So yeah, they met on the set of X-Men, became very good friends. Ian McKellen actually performed Patrick Stewart's writing, and as a matter of fact, gave him some unsolicited advice. Said when you're saying tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, Ian McKellen tells Patrick Stewart, you should put the emphasis on the and, so it should sound like tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. And Patrick Stewart said, I don't know where Ian McKellen gets off telling me what to do, and then he tried it, and it turns out Gandalf was right. So we've had Professor X play Macbeth. We've had Magneto play Macbeth. The most recent version was Michael Fassbender, young Magneto, playing Macbeth in a super boring version, and that just leaves young Professor X, James McAvoy, who also played Macbeth. So yeah, it turns out that the credentials that you need to play Professor X or Magneto is to be Macbeth at some point before that. So I had a good one for this. Here, this is the one I'm happy about. Macbeth's Men. Macbeth's Men. Okay, so let's see. Anybody seen any of the older versions? I know I'm cutting out Orson Welles, but if there's a Shakespeare version, Orson Welles has probably done it, up to and including Othello, I think. Man, a lot of white guys wanted to do blackface for Othello. It's always a bad look. Always a bad look. Oh, did I get 3 simultaneous boos for Macbeth's Men? Guys, I'm sorry if you're not on board for Macbeth's Men. I don't think this is gonna be your show. I'm just gonna be. Thank you, Macy. Thank you, Clint. Thank you, Abby, my good friends. Thank you, Greg. Aaron actually brought me that scotch that I'm drinking right now, so I think I owe him a little bit. Magneto, Danny, you're so good. You're so good. Again, this is why we cross-pollinate. This is why we collaborate here, folks. Magneto, it's so good. Anybody got a Professor X? Nothing? Okay, carrying on. 2 Macdaptations. I didn't think that was as strong as Macbeth's Men, but if you guys are booing that too, I don't know what's going to make you happy. I just don't. Okay, so a couple of versions here. This one is Roman Polanski's. Macbeth was actually the first film that he made after the death of Sharon Tate, after she was murdered by the Manson family. So yeah, his version is pretty rough. It's pretty hardcore, and obviously he's a pretty terrible human being, so we don't really watch that one. This one, though, Throne of Blood, if you've never seen this, Akira Kurosawa, it's Macbeth with samurai, and I don't know how else to sell that to you. I said Macbeth, I said samurai, go see that. The main actor in this one literally gets shot with arrows quite a few times in real life to pull off this scene, and you can tell he had nightmares for years, so a little PTSD on screen there. This one, oh my God, you guys, Scotland, PA. Takes place in the 70s. It has to do with fast food chain. It's strongly implied that Macbeth in this one is the founder of McDonald's, and that Duncan is the founder of Dunkin' Donuts. And as you can see there, Macduff is played by vegetarian Christopher Walken. It's so good. My wife's laughing, which means I think something's happening in the chat.
No, that was just like a crazy premise. Like, that was absurd.
Oh, okay. Literally, the idea itself. Yeah. It's so worth watching. If you've got a second, you need to go see. Duncan dies by tripping over Lady Macbeth into a deep fat fryer. So yeah, it's dark, but man, it's really, really good. And let's see, we've got this one. This is Sleep No More. This is evidently a big deal. Scotty says that Sarah laughing in the background is her favorite. It's my favorite too. These shows are much better when Sarah's here. She also tells me who wrote the Declaration of Independence, so evidently that's something I need every once in a while. Sleep No More is a play going on in Broadway. It's supposed to be really, really good, but it's kind of this avant-garde thing where everybody's wearing masks and it's cycling through, and you walk through the set of a version of Macbeth where all the events are happening at once, and you just kind of observe what you want to as you want to. And John and Molly Busey have been to this, and I am not insanely jealous that they have seen this. There he is. There's John and Molly. Yeah. Just talking about I'm not seething with jealousy at how many times you guys have seen this. I was actually thinking about that as we were putting this together. that you guys had seen that. But no, I hear it's awesome. We're going to get to New York someday, maybe when I turn 40, which is way, way closer than it used to be. Let's talk about some of the themes. I think that's where we are on the docket. Okay, so we're going to talk about fate versus free will as represented by the supernatural force of the witches in a segment that I like to call Witches Please. Witches Please. That was the least offensive segment that I could title that I could think of coming up with. But yes, Lin-Manuel did write the Declaration of Independence. Thank you for that, Zoe. So the witches, the whole concept here, they're a hard thing to make scary, but King James had like a witch fetish. He wrote a book on them. I got props from the family Vunsman over Witch Please. I'm happy about that. So King James wrote a book on witches. They were a thing that he liked. Thank you, Clint. Let's talk about the Macbeth Curse real quick while we're on witches. Obviously, as Aaron said, it is a long-standing superstition that actors cannot say the name of the play in the theater. The original Lady Macbeth, who was, of course, played by a man, died the day after the premiere of Macbeth, and that might be where this comes from. One of the speculations and superstitions is the idea that Macbeth was hanging out with some actual witches and actually wrote down some of their spells, and so that every time there's a performance of Macbeth, they're actually incanting a curse. So that's dumb, but you know, we live in a world where people advocate shooting sunlight in your body to kill viruses, so I don't know who's stupid anymore. I don't know. You guys, I don't. Anyways, can Macbeth be held responsible for his actions? The idea here is that within the context of the writing, Shakespeare is doing some history rewrites to show how Fleance got the Scottish crown and eventually James got the English crown. So even the witches, being evil, seem to serve the greater good. Macbeth doesn't seem to think so. We'll get to that a little bit later. And by the way, when they call them the Weird Sisters, that's a fun English word for fate. Oh my god. Yeah, guys, I know we can't say Macbeth in theater. I'm sorry, Danny. I know that you can't too. I said just actors, and that was offensive of me. I'm sorry. Anyways, we're going to talk about another theme, which is the concept of masculinity in the book, which brings me... Oh, I said the last one was my favorite. It's not. This one is. Toxic masculinity. Yeah, I don't care who doesn't like that. That's good. That's gold. You know, I tell my students when they do something clever, they should really act like they've been there. And I know that every time I get a good title in here... I'm sorry, firefighters can't say Macbeth in a theater? Is that right? It's... This list is getting...
Who would have known?
Who would have known? Not I. Zoe, are you booing toxic masculinity? I'm not apologizing for that one. That one's good. That one's golden. Anyways, everybody seems to have a hot take on masculinity in this one, and what it means to be a man versus what it means to be a woman. For example, one of the first things you see is Lady Macbeth, as she prays to the demons. She says, "Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here, and fill me from the crown to the top toe full of direst cruelty." So her understanding is that if any part of her is still womanly, she's not going to be able to do what she needs to do, which is convince Macbeth to kill the king. So when she is trying to convince Macbeth to kill Duncan, she calls him, she makes a metaphor to him as a cat, and that pun held up at the time as well, and he literally responds, "I dare do all that may become a man." He has to step up and say, I'm a man, and it's through that she's able to manipulate him. The Porter's Monologue is a great one as far as masculinity. Thank you guys. Thank you. Danny, Abby, Allison. I know who my friends are. Let's talk about the Porter's Monologue. So the Porter has such a great bit. It comes right after the murder. And he's pretending to be the doorman to hell. And Macduff has woken him up. He is wasted because it is a party night. And he says this. He says that drink provokes three things. Macduff says, "What is that?" And he says, "Drink is a great provoker of three things: nose painting, sleep, and urine. Lechery, sir, it provokes and it unprovokes. It provokes the desire, but it takes away the performance. Therefore, much drink may be said to be an equivocator with lechery. It makes him and it mars him. It sets him on and it takes him off. It persuades him and disheartens him, makes him stand to and not stand to. In conclusion, equivocates him in a sleep, and giving him the lie, leaves him. So he gives this whole speech about how being drunk makes it hard to perform sexually, and anytime I ask what that passage is about, I get one giggle from one super otherwise innocent kid in the back corner of the room, and I can't actually say, hey, what are you laughing at, because they actually understand the joke. But the idea here is that he's making a joke that drinking too much unmakes a man. He literally says that. So we've got somebody that associates masculinity with cruelty in Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, somebody that associates it with their sexuality with the porter. Macbeth later on, he's trying to kill these, or he's trying to convince these guys to kill Banquo, and he assaults their masculinity. He says, are you guys too angelic to feel like you need to get revenge? And they say, we are men, my liege. And he says, in the catalog, you go for men. So everybody is being manipulated by their insecurity. Later on, Lady Macbeth, when Macbeth sees Banquo's ghost, she calls him unmanned in folly. She literally asks him, are you a man? She tells him to man up because he's acting so afraid of something that nobody else can see. And he says, I'm a bold one that dare look upon that which may appall the devil. Let's see. Danny. Macbeth. Can I say this in mine? Is that the problem? That Zoe, are ye gods? No, we are but men. Rock. All right, so that brings us to Macduff. Sorry for the aside. I just love catching up with the chat every once in a while. Oh, Macy, I'm so glad you asked. Clint, I'm so glad you had Macy ask, what does Shakespeare associate with masculinity? I'm gonna switch out my drink. Put that one safely there. Take this one safely over here. By the way, I lost that drink last time because I'm doing all this off of a TV tray. So I have computer, I have camera, I have microphone, I have drink, and that runs out of space for stuff. So hopefully I can hold on to this one. Macbeth in a theater. Oh, that's tasty. So, positive masculinity comes around in the form of Macduff. Macduff learns that Macbeth has killed his entire family. This is an amazing scene. If you've got a good Macduff, and Walken, this doesn't happen in Scotland, PA, so Walken doesn't get to act this out, which is, I think, a shame. It robs us all of something beautiful. But Macduff is paralyzed for a second at finding out that his children and his wife have died. And he's oscillating between absolute rage and just absolute sorrow. And for a long time, he doesn't talk. And Malcolm, the young man, the young prince, says, you need to say something. And then he says, go kill Macbeth. Dispute it like a man. And Macduff's response to that is incredible. He says, I'll dispute it like a man, but first I must feel it like a man. That's a fantastic line. That's really incredible. Macduff does end up getting his revenge, but he says, the first thing I have to do is process this. And he says that that's the most manly behavior he can have. Whereas absolutely everybody else in this play is essentially working through some form or another of PTSD and thinks that the manly thing to do is to just tamp those feelings down and not talk about it. And thank God we as a society have moved past that as a concept. So yeah, Macduff says, I must feel it like a man before I can dispute it like a man, which I think is just a profound take on the cure for toxic masculinity. That also ties into a weird way of Macduff not being born of a woman. there's this really interesting thing that he's the only character that is not motivated by assaults on his masculinity. It motivates absolutely everybody else who's called anything less than a man. They feel like they need to fight, and not Macduff. Macduff just tells this kid to shut up for a second while he processes his feelings. So that brings us to, let's talk about this one. Lady Misogyny. I'm not tremendously proud of that one, but we do need to talk about Lady Macbeth. And let's see. Did I have one on here? There we go. Ladies Macbeth. That's what I was looking for. I want to talk about this role and some of the actresses who have played it and what it's led to. Obviously, Lady Macbeth was first played by a man in Elizabethan theater. When this role opened up, some of the greatest female actors of the time wanted to play Lady Macbeth. She was such a complicated character that this is where actresses felt like they could test their chops. Yeah, Aaron, Zoe, I told you that one wasn't great. Anyways, Dame Judi Dench played this opposite of Ian McKellen. We've got Marion Cotillard. I'm pretty sure I nailed that French. There is a new Lady Macbeth movie, which isn't actually about Lady Macbeth. Vivian Leigh, Scarlett O'Hara, played Lady Macbeth, and then my favorite, I think, Jane Fleetwood. Fleetwood is her last name. She does a really great job with this, and she pops up in a lot of other roles, including a Harry Potter movie in the future for about 5 seconds. Sarah's been reading Harry Potter for the first time, and we have been watching the Harry Potter movies as she gets through that. So, of all the people in this play, Lady Macbeth gets most remembered, and it's really interesting that she is only remembered for her viciousness. At the end, she is driven crazy by what she created in Macbeth. She is an abused prisoner in her own home, and we still use it as shorthand for an overly ambitious woman, specifically for Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was called the Lady Macbeth of Arkansas way back when Bill was governor, and the comparisons to Hillary Clinton as a Lady Macbeth, this I think was the old version of calling somebody, a fictional character, a Mary Sue, which is also a term that I hate. But it's just a lazy term for a woman who actually has some ambition, which is both a misremembering of the character and a super simple sexist way to paint a woman in politics one way. But thank God we don't have a Lady Macbeth as president, because things could be really, really bad right now if that had happened. It could be really bad right now. Anyways, brings us to one of our last segments, famous lines. Mac, I didn't have anything for that one. If you got one, put them in the comments. The Dame Judi Dench. That is right, Abby. When you talk about Judi Dench, you call her the Dame. Great lines. Double, double, toil and trouble. Come on, that is every witch ever says double, double, toil and trouble. That came from Macbeth. The sound and the fury. Faulkner took that as a title. It's a great line. Out damned spot. Lady Macbeth furiously trying to clean her hands of blood when she's having her hallucinations, when back in the day she said a little water clears us of our guilt. She's, in some versions, she's trying to use bleach. She's trying to kind of tear her hands out when all she needed to do was drink it. And that was the only thing you need to get rid of all the viruses in your system. Something wicked this way comes, classic line, used both by witches and by, was that Arthur? No, that was Ray Bradbury, did a compilation, Something Wicked This Way Comes. Knock, knock, who's there? The porter tells the first knock-knock joke in recorded English history. I just blew Sarah's mind. I didn't. That is the face she makes when she knows I want her to be impressed right now, but she's not really impressed. But you know, we just need to move on.
I was thinking of our Sesame Street book. That I
we do have, yes.
You know.
Is Knock Knock Who's There over here?
Oh, who knows?
Who knows?
I've
Okay.
read it at least 10 times.
Yes, we have read so much Knock Knock Who's There, the Sesame Street version, to our child, and you want to be so excited when your child is into books, but Our child is only into 3 books, and we have read each of those probably 3,000 times each. Stars Hide Your Fires by Mumford and Sons. Use that in a song. Poor Mumford and Sons had one good record, and then they had other records. Likewise, Semi-Charmed Life, which started this thing off. Hold on, I'm following. Macy, Professor X, Jean-Luc Picard of the Starship Bether Prize. Clint, I'll take it. I'm going to call you tonight's winner because you didn't boo the puns. You just came up with something better. Good job. Oh, Danny. Yeah, absolutely. The Porter. The Porter is one of my favorite bits in any version of Macbeth. And turns out in the Ian McKellen version, Ian McDermott, the Emperor, Emperor Palpatine, he plays the Porter in that one. So let's talk about the most famous passage here that gave us the most famous quotes, which is the Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow speech. So here is Sir Patrick Stewart reading that one for you guys. We start off with the death of Lady Macbeth. Hey, Annalise, first of all, Annalise, I'm so glad that you are here. And second of all, yes, you did miss it. I can play it again on the outro if you would like. But here we are going to have Patrick Stewart reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Listen to that punch on the and. Also, this version of Macbeth is kind of violent. So if you got little kids up, send them out of the room.
Wherefore was that cry?
The Queen, my lord, is dead.
She should have died hereafter. There would have been a time for such a word. Tomorrow. And tomorrow. And tomorrow. Creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays of lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out. Out. Brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage. And then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Oh man, I'm so sorry, you guys. I turned the mic off to do the thing. I come back. Very sorry. The sound is back. To go back, I wanted to say, first of all, Danny, the mustache is not too much. That mustache deserves its own movie, its own spinoff called Max Dash. I delivered that better a little bit earlier. And then I wanted to thank The Dog Ate My Diss for such a good point, which is to say that, the whole problem here is that Lady Macbeth would be an excellent leader, especially for Scotland at the time. Yeah, there's the backstabbing, but that is pretty typical. Scotty, you're right. I did say the most profound things, and I'm saying them again right now as we speak. But yeah, she would be an excellent leader, but when she imparts those qualities onto Macbeth, because Macbeth's the person who has to lead, he goes too far. Now, obviously, killing the king might be too far in the first place, but he's got to kill everybody, and that's what drives her crazy. Macbeth starts killing people that are outside of politics, and one of the things that drives her insane is the thought that he killed the wife and child of someone who actually hadn't acted against him at this point. So yeah, the concept that Lady Macbeth would be a better leader than Macbeth, she's just not allowed to be, I think is a pretty great thing to bring up. So guys, I'm sorry for the sound. It was really good. I'm sure I looked amazing there in absolute silence. I learned last time when I went to the bar cam that it turns out when I leave the mic on a pre-recorded session, you can still hear the stuff I'm saying. So, I think that is about all I have to say about Macbeth. I cannot encourage you enough to check out the version on PBS Great Performances, which is free if you haven't checked it out. That's the one with Patrick Stewart. Also, check out Scotland, PA. It'll do your heart really good. Christopher Walken, he gets to dance. And spoiler alert for the end of the movie, opens up. Very nice vegan restaurant. It's good. It's good. So thank you for listening to this tale told by an idiot, signifying nothing, full of sound and fury. Clint, diving in at the very end. Is this Shakespeare's best play? I like it lately. It's been, it's been really easy to talk about and get interesting conversation about a leader who did whatever he could to get into power, is completely driven by his own ego and desire to succeed, sees nothing beyond his blind ambition, and destroying all of his enemies, and nearly wrecks his entire country. So for some reason that's worked really, really well lately. I don't know why. But no, Shakespeare's best, man, there's a laundry list, right? It's like saying, is this Bob Dylan's best song? Is this Bob Dylan's best song? It's like, which Bob Dylan are we talking about? Certainly one of my favorites. Danny, what's your favorite? And guys, please let me know in your comments right now, what is your favorite Shakespeare? And also, a thing I would love to know. 2 weeks seems like a little quick for these things to turn around, and one thing that would be a little bit easier than me talking at you guys for around 45 minutes is playing music for you guys. So I have been out of practice musically, but I would love to do a concert and maybe take tips for charity. If that is a thing that you would be interested in doing, interested in tuning in on in a couple of Fridays, please let me know. Let's see. I'm going to wait for some comments to get some more ideas. Oh, okay, Aaron. Yeah, the fifth Fast and the Furious movie. Fastest Fivest. I think that is very, very solid. Fastest and the Fivest. So let's see. Clint. I'm going to suggest other versions, just general adaptations of Shakespeare. What's his name? The really great Doctor Who, Tennant. David Tennant does a version of Hamlet where Patrick Stewart plays Claudius, his stepfather / uncle. And that's really interesting because a lot of people think that Hamlet is kind of the story of well, what would happen if Macbeth was sane enough to get away with it? And so it's really interesting to me that Patrick Stewart plays both of those roles. I say yes to the concert, but that's my mom. Mom, I love you so much, but I'm not sure that I can count that as a vote. I do really appreciate it, but I know that you would show up to anything that I did here, and I appreciate your support always. Danny drank too much, and she's getting her titles mixed up. Your titles of Shakespeare? This 30-second delay is killing me. But that's as fast as we could go. Let's see, other great adaptations. Anthony Hopkins doing Titus Andronicus. It's very weird, very underrated. There's a great version of a live stage play of The Tempest with Christopher Plummer. Anthony Hopkins just played King Lear in a really cool version that's also got a lot of great English actors. Oh, guys, I'm totally forgetting. This is for real. Somebody gave the BBC just all the money and said, go hire all the actors and do the Henry Tetriad. So that's, correct me if I'm wrong, that's Richard II, Henry IV, parts 1 and 2, Henry V, and Richard III. And it is like a murderer's row of talent in there. Like Tom Hiddleston is Henry V, Prince Hal. He is really good. Bumblebee Cumberbund is Richard III, and he just kills it. The only problem I have with that is that Richard III is supposed to be deformed, and he's like a hunchback, and he's got a thing, and so it's like, Benedict Cumberbatch like saying, "Oh, I'm hideous," and everybody's saying, you're like, "Shut up, you beautiful space alien." Nobody's buying that people think that you're ugly. But that's called The Hollow Crown. You should absolutely check that out. That's worth so much. Measure for Measure. Good call, Danny. Yeah, I like that one. I'm a sucker for The Tempest. I know it's a bunch of weird stuff. It's a bunch of one-offs, but it's got some opportunity for some cool. Branagh's Henry V. Wow, that is a bold claim. Branagh in anything is a lot. I don't know if Branagh knows when he's the joke of any given movies. Veronica Soto, thank you so much. So guys, we'll do a concert on this pretty soon. I'm also thinking about maybe going back and doing a Harry Potter. We've been hitting some heavy stuff, so I thought about doing Harry Potter book 1, or maybe I'll do Prisoner of Azkaban, widely regarded as one of the greater books, and also the one that Sarah's working on right now. Also thinking about taking a month to do the Poisonwood Bible, which is a much longer book. So let me know if those are things that you want to do. Let me know if you've got any other ideas, something that maybe I haven't read. As always, thank you guys so much for being here. This is a lot of fun. As you can tell, I miss teaching. I miss sharing my information. If I get to do that with my friends and hopefully make your lives a little more bearable in these very strange times, then I will keep doing that. But in the meantime, I appreciate you all so much. Love you guys. Thank you for the strangers or the people that I have not seen in years and years that actually showed up. Oh, wait. I'm going to deal with this comment right. The dog ate my diss. Othello and King Lear deal with important issues of family loyalty and violence. They can be hard to read, but give people a chance to think hard and talk about it. Othello. I took students to see a version of Othello that was tremendous, and it was so hard to watch because of how well performed it was. And again, you want to talk about concepts of masculinity leading people to absolute devastation and destruction. So those come with a content warning. But yes, check out Othello. For my money, it's Kenneth Branagh as Iago and Lawrence Fishburne, Morpheus himself as Othello. But again, thank you guys so much. Oh, Grapes of Wrath, or The Things They Carried. Tim O'Brien is recommending his own book there. Is it not that Tim O'Brien? I think it's that Tim O'Brien. No, I know that Abby, Abby's married to Tim O'Brien, but I'm pretty sure that's the author Tim O'Brien, and he's recommending I talk about him pretty soon. Yeah, pretty sure. Thank you guys so much for being here. This has been Adults Get Lit. I've been Cody Pruitt. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Stay safe.